What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of 𝐦𝐨 Knowledge. Today, I want to continue with our talk about the eighth house. I want to talk about sexual abuse. I want to talk about desire, power, and just some other things to look out for. So, let's get into it. Now, I do want to say that we just so happen to be talking about the eighth house. And life does move in synchronicity. And I sense a lot of things. And it was brought to my attention that a colleague of mine, and someone I consider a peer, someone I've been around in this particular space, they got themselves caught up in something. And the evidence seems to speak that, it is what it is. So I feel like it's my duty as a divine messenger, as your astrologer, to just inform, provide some more awareness on topics. So I'll start with saying this: that astrology, as an astrologer, I'm forecasting. I study the cycle of the planets and stars and their energetic influence, psychological, and all of that influence on human interaction. Okay? And it's a wide range of things that is possible within any chart. And it's really up to the astrologer to be able to correctly filter what the chart is saying. At least how I look at it. It is science. It is a degree of science, but there's spirit infused within it. So there's a logical sense and an intuitive sense. So I myself, having a Leo stellium, having also a loaded fifth house, I'm in this life a protector of children, and I'm also a girl dad and all of that. So of course it hits home, and I just want to make sure you guys just have awareness of how to correctly look at particular things. And also say this: if you don't know, I have, in addition to the thousands of adult charts that I've done, I've also done and enjoy doing forecasting the charts of children. Okay? It's a very natural part of life. And if you're out there and I've read your child's chart, feel free to comment, let them know all of that. So say all that to say this: it's a wide range, and you have to meditate upon things, but there is an intuitive sense. So I could even say, with this person, the evidence was there. And let's just get into the eighth house. So the eighth house is the house of sexuality. It's the house of desire. And how I really try to incorporate it in my book, Astrology of the Matrix, I really try to show you it from a psychological standpoint. Each house has a different number of correspondences, personality-wise, spiritually, and manifestations in society. So if we focus on the psychological aspect of it, it's desire. And it's been said many a times that desire is the motivating force, or the desire is sex, right? So within the eighth house, and people who have energy there, you're going to have these scenarios in which you are introduced to this energy. You are influenced by this energy. It's a part of human development, right? So all of us at some time have eighth house transits, eighth house experiences. For the ones who have planets there, specifically like a Saturn, a Mars, a Pluto, right? These are more predatory energies. Now we're also keeping in mind that in viewing a chart, it's like it's the individual. They have the ability. It's in their life, You, like I said, you, the astrologer, are extracting how this energy is playing out. Well, one of the ways it can play out is that the energy is brought to them. And more times than not, energetically, you will find the more unconscious you are of something, the more easier it's able to be brought in, right? And depending on what it is, it might come through with force. But let's get a little more direct with it. The planets, the energies are also feelings. They're feelings. So Mars is aggression. Pluto is intensity, right? And then I'm going back. Mars is also force, physicality. Saturn is rough, dry, okay, aged. Jupiter, expansive. Neptune, euphoric, intoxicating. Sun, hot, right? Okay, so you want to lock into the feelings of these planets. And Mercury, youthful, youthful. So with these feelings, you are, say you see a particular alignment of Mars and Saturn in someone's 8th house. This can be a psychological indicator of many things, right? It's not necessarily rough sex isn't necessarily a turn on, but it might become one because that's the way one was introduced towards their sexuality. This now, Saturn, this is why keywords and understanding are so important. So what else is Saturn corresponding to? Fears. One's fears. So a lot of times, you'll see it with like I said, these three combinations: Mars, Pluto, Mars, Saturn. Some type of fears around sex, intent, restrictive or forceful, just depending on the combination is playing out. Okay, but in the sense of like Scorpio, where Pluto is amplified, and Saturn is coming through for 2 years, you're having a plethora of people born with the potential to play out these combinations in different ways. With being on the receiving end as well as and we know at this point without astrology that most abusers have been abused. But the spirituality, when you're able to go through that and infuse spirituality into your life, you get the right Jupiter. You have the wisdom of like, oh, that's how that feels. And I would never, right? Or you correct, you have the ability to correct the action. So isolating it in little different ways. The 8th house can be the first pinpoint trigger of rape or sexual abuse, and with one of those three malefics present there, or specifically together in some type of way, that amplifies it. Then you'll also want to look at house rulers as well as what's anything deposited in the 12th, because that's a secret activity. Okay, and then a lot of time, just a little trend that I've seen with uh, of victims, a lot of the 4, the 8, and the 12, or the 3rd will be very active, indicating it being a part of the early conditioning or a childhood memory, things of that nature. And if you were here on our talk from last week about degrees, you could use that knowledge and even the rulers of the decans and everything to further play it out. But let's just kind of give it some combinations. Say we get say we get Pluto, Mars, or Saturn, and any of these with Mercury in a aspecting or playing off of one of these positions. Mercury's childhood. youthfulness. So on the both sides of the victim or the abuser, there's an obsession, or there's a draw, or there's something there. So my biggest thing here that I'm getting at here is that it's a psychological thing. It's, or the root of this. Another aspect I do want to bring in here, always when it comes to these kind of talks, is Uranus. And Uranus dealing is perversion. Aquarius is perversion or experimentation, all of that. But Uranus, that feeling is like, let's try this. Scorpio, 8th house already is like, I like this taboo shit. Then if you add Uranus here, or Uranus is typically, yeah, because that can go a lot of ways. But from what I see, Uranus is usually a player off of this. So for example, a lot of times with this is going like with orgies and stuff, someone who's into orgies or 2-on-1 type of thing, that's you can see some 11th house influence or prominent Uranus and air sign or something, right? Experimentation, curiosity. But the next aspect of this 8th house, sexual abuse, if those certain planets are there in all of these psychic houses along during one Saturn square, the Saturn square, and it's another good reason why it's nice to have your kid's chart read. The Saturn square is going to be, if your kid has like moon squares and something you see on like, oh, I wonder how that's going to be, and it hasn't necessarily played out yet. Saturn, just around 7 years old, when the Saturn squares the natal, the transit of Saturn squares the natal Saturn, you get a reality, or one becomes kind of conscious to the Saturn force, and that'll be in a lot of things. So applying this can be when the incident occurs. And simply, people always ask, like, what is it just destined to happen? No, I believe in the free will within fate. Okay, these are potentialities, and you having this awareness is to, like, if it simply boils down to like, okay, this is a year where my kid is getting invited to a lot of sleepovers, or just being able to read the tea leaves, man, and have the extra awareness. That's ultimately what it's for, y'all. So, like I said, you want to pay attention to the time periods, transit-wise, things that are happening. If you yourself have experience relating this back to children, if you yourself, or it's been experienced within a family, have that karma. This is an awareness. It's your duty to be in alignment with protecting or preventing these things from occurring, by whether it be by opening up the bounds of communication, whatever it be, but you have that awareness of like, this, it's real. It can happen. So there's a lot that can be said here. So transit-wise, transits to the 4th, 8th, 12th, along with squares to like particular rulers of the 5th house, rulers of the 12th house. And then also the solar, this is why solar, knowing your natal chart and, being aware of your progress and its solar return makes this stuff a lot more like, okay, because the solar return helps you fine tune for the year. And then so, yeah. Now, let's talk about Saturn in the 8th. Saturn in the 8th, in terms of being an abuser, in my views, it's that effect. It can be lessened unless this Saturn is extremely damaged and connected towards other things that enforce the perversion. But what I've seen and what I know, it's one where it kind of sobers up the desire state. Because wherever Saturn is, you wouldn't have a realistic approach here, right? So these people can actually be growing to explore theirs more. Okay. Now, on the other hand of being abused now, like I said, that can more that energy of someone being a predator to them, and this can manifest in ways where you know the person is actually attracted towards people that reinforce the abuse. Okay, uh, and then until it's not until they get 35 and up that they really snap out of it to an extent. So, and then Saturn also throws these bouts of celibacy in there, or just times when it's dry. Now, Pluto in the eighth, this can bring a whole gamut of different energies. This can, on a particular level, like I've seen it kind of a lot with the Libra generation. This is more like that'll be like a lot of family things going on. The history can be there. And, there's a thing I always tell people with certain planets, and I give a hint like Sun in the eighth. Sun in the eighth, that can you that can say certain things about a person's, let's say, family. Or let me just be more direct, even one's father. It, in choosing the correct terminology, one could say simply there are aspects about your father's life you don't know about. And hypothetically, in the sense of this conversation, let's just say one's father was secretly a pedophile or something of that nature, right? That sun in the eighth house, along with like the Pluto or things connected to that, can be representative of that in the karma in that way. And then, skipping a generation, the child of that said person we're talking about ends up going through that thing. So that's a little bit more of the what goes around comes around karma angle, right? So I hope all that makes sense. I know it did. So yeah, Pluto can be one where essentially you are breaking ancestral karma in this way. You're also here to confront where you have maybe been struggled with certain, things sexually in previous lives and all of that. But a lot of times I would say Pluto in the eighth's journey is less about like others in the sexuality, but rather themselves. Like about discovering their own power in this department where they may have related it towards always having to share that power, if that makes sense. Okay. And then Mars is just the most, this is a natural position for Mars. Mars in the eighth house can be secretly aggressive. Remember, these are different. Every chart is different, but the Mars in because though if you really know this person, if you're intimate with them, you know that they're aggressive, right? But this can, on the abuser side, show that desire, and essentially what I wanted to just get home here, and I talk about more of this, but there's the wheel is spinning 24 hours a day, and there's a lot of different combinations, and I don't say, I preface a lot of what I see or know because it's a lot. It's a lot, and but awareness is key. So I want to end this talk on like intuition's a key thing. Intuition's a key thing, but also you have to be in a good state to be intuitive, or just if you're doing your due diligence with this astrology stuff, you'll be able to trust your intuition more. You'll Like I said, anyone you're gonna have around your kids, this is why you really need to know who's who, and it's our gift. I always tell people we know astrology at this level because we've graduated to it evolutionary wise to be able to ground it in the reality at this point. Think about it, yo. No one who don't believe in astrology needs to. It ain't for them. But if you hear right now, it's for you. You get it. You see something, and situation where we're talking about like this, it just allow. This is how we balance the karma, so it doesn't have to get repeated. It's like, cause I know now. So we got choice, we got awareness. All right. So this is my talk on the eighth house, planets in the eighth house, the malefics. All right. Feel free to chime in, comment, let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, you could do so now. If you want to join my Patreon, you could do that too. I got a video coming talking channel updates. Yeah, if you need a reading, the shop is open. Till next time, peace.